Hi, my name is Max Pog. I am a co-founder of BDR Academy. For the last 5 years, from 2018, I had experience and created about 30 online courses in different niches, from lifestyle courses to professional ones, and more than 100,000 students participated in these courses. Now we are launching a BDR Academy, which is a course aimed to help non-native English speakers to secure a job with US company. It is BDR or business development representative job, which helps companies to get more customers for their B2B SaaS services or other products and services. So today my guest is Nicholas Peterson. He has been working as a BDR for 4 years. When he started, his salary was about $60,000 a year, and now it's about 100K. I hope this interview will show you what is a BDR role, what are processes and tasks inside of it, what are the customers, what is the product, and you have to decide, is a BDR opportunity working remotely for US company, is it for you or not? Okay, thank you, Nicholas, that you decided to share your experience as an enterprise BDR working at Amperity. Please tell about your career path. So, just a few words about you and how you started to work as a BDR.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for having me again. Really, really excited to share kind of my journey and the excitement around the BDR space. I personally didn't really start in a business or sales orient coming out of college. I was a PR student in a communication school. I knew I really liked the ability to craft narratives, talk to people, understand how humans interact and communicate. Um, like a lot of college kids, I didn't necessarily know where that fit in the real world. Um, but ended up finding through some jobs kind of all encompassing small manufacturing place that started as a really small startup. There were less than 10 employees when I started, and I got to work in various assets of the business. So from a BDR to marketing to PR, and I found that outbound sales and this kind of this beginning sales motion is really where I excelled and where I found the most interesting challenge. So it's really that ability to get someone on the phone and within 60 seconds, how are you going to convince them that what you're talking about and what you're selling is relevant to them and necessary? So um, throughout the two and a half years I spent at that job, doing lots of different things, I continued to go back to, okay, I really like the initial communication with people. I really like the figuring out where they sit in terms of having a problem that we can solve and how I can craft my language and narrative um, to fit their needs. And so, after about 2.5 years there, I was really looking for something that was more, again, full time and had some growth in that area. And instead of doing odd jobs that involved that, I wanted to really get involved in the enterprise tech side of that BDR. And so, through some of my network connections, I landed in Amperity, and since then I've been in a mostly outbound role of calling and communicating for BDR. But that's kind of how I wound up where I am today.
Hmm. And am I right that you started earlier than 2.5 year ago as a BDR, or it is your first role? Uh huh.
So I've been a BDR now for about 4 years. My first role was about 2.5 years. I've been at Amperity almost 2 years now as a pure
Uh
BDR.
huh.
But like I said, I know that there's a lot of people who enjoy communication or the ability
Hmm.
to talk and interact with people and go, what am I supposed to do with that? And I'd really encourage people to take a look at a BDR role because you get that interaction with so many different kinds of people and you get to hone your language skills. So while I kind of found out about the BDR space in my first job that encompassed a lot of stuff, the last year and a half, almost 2 years, has been really honing in on that. messaging and sales aspect of what a BDR
Mm-hmm,
is.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you love communication, and what are other reasons to become a BDR? So why did you choose this path?
So outside of the fact, again, I'm someone who when I was interviewing for this job, I love to talk about the 60-second challenge of being a BDR. Outbound calls or emails in 60 seconds with today's day and age in 2023 is probably closer to 5 seconds of people's attention. But it's that quick thinkability of, hey, how do I grab you in? How do I entertain you? And how do I show you? And then the other part outside of that is just working with sales is a vital function to every organization, right? There are very few organizations that can survive without some sort of sales or offensive tactic. And being a part of that organization is really exciting. You get to be on the cutting edge, you get to try out new tools, and you get to network with really smart people who've been in tons of different roles, are able to help my career grow, able to help fellow BDR careers grow. So being at a BDR role really allows you to get a full view of the sales org as well. And for someone like me who has future career aspirations in a sales org, in enablement, in leadership, it's a really great place to start when it comes to building your own personal network as well. So in terms of like growing your LinkedIn network, your personal knowledge network, connecting with outside corporations or even nonprofit opportunities. Being a BDR is really a great way to kind of meet a lot of different people. So I really like that aspect as well.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell, please, about the product of Amperity?
Yeah.
And
So
uh-huh. And
it's
so,
it's a
what is the product? Who are the customers?
yeah. So the nice part about Amperity is, and this will be a very kind of broad answer. Amperity deals with customer data. Um, And the customers are anyone, any enterprise business that you think of that has customer data. So what Amperity really specializes on the back end is the ability to take siloed customer records or things that may sit in different areas of a large scale business. So I always use an example. We don't work with Walmart, but when I think of a large scale business, especially in the US, you think of a place like Walmart. They have health, they have grocery, they have toys, they have electronics, they have some places they have car part stores. They have tons of different areas of the business, tons of different businesses. How do they take customer data and provide a good, compelling customer experience? So there are lots of tools on the back end. Imperity is one of those tools that helps these brands like Walmart with data silos that may have max going to a few stores um, in wherever your hometown is. Maybe you shop online using a different card. How do we know that that's the same person? And Parity on the back end through our patented AI can help companies determine, hey, this is both the same Max. He's bought here twice, and now here's the kind of ads or service we want to feed to him. And so we really, like I said, that's a pretty broad answer, but we can work with lots of different companies and customize to what that means. So what that means for my day to day as a BDR is I have to have really wide knowledge of a lot of different industries. So I might be talking to an auto manufacturer and I need to understand what's going on in that space around car connectivity, around how auto manufacturers are trying to get service partners roped in to data share operations. And then my next conversation might be with a fast food joint that's talking about using mobile apps and how they want to integrate customer personalization into mobile app push notifications. So it really is a challenge, especially where I work, of being able to understand a lot of different business use cases and speak, like I said, within 60 seconds to you are a digital marketer at a QSR fast food joint. I need to know what use cases and case studies we have. And that's all really interesting to me. If you can tell, I'm kind of lighting up as I talk about it because this is really the fun of it, is figuring out where this all fits. So hopefully that was a not too complicated answer of what we do and who we sell to.
Yeah, I understand. Can you share what is your typical workday? So, what are processes in a BDR job?
Yeah. So, and again, there are a lot of different ways to do this. So, we are a dual inbound outbound BDR. So, I tend to start my day checking in. Are there any inbound leads that potentially came in after hours? Are there any pressing? First thing, obviously, is there any pressing people who want to get in contact with us, prospects who need questions answered? Check in, review intent strategy. So, We have lots of tools that tell us, are people on our website? Are people researching things about our company? And then from there, it can build out my day priority. So every day involves some outbound calls, involves outbound emails, involves strategizing with my leadership, both on my BDR team for, hey, what do you think about this specific messaging? And then talking with my account executives or sales leaders about what accounts do you have an in out? What does your network look like? Um, and then the other part that we've started to do a lot more because of remote work is tough, is trying to collaborate amongst team in either round robin call blitzes, or everyone gets on and we talk through a specific use case or problem, just to make sure we're all thinking through the problems the same, or sharing different ways of thinking about stuff. So um, that's kind of a dual inbound outbound day, but kind of covers a generic day for me, I'd say.
Mhm. If to talk about customers and the product, what is average check, or what is the amount of contract that you pursue with finding new prospects?
Yeah, so for Amperity, because we're targeting mostly enterprise businesses, a lot of the businesses we're looking at, revenue deal size will be 6 or 7 figures. And again, the interesting part of where I'm at, and the reason that I ended up taking a BDR role because of where I was before, was in my previous role, I had to manage the entirety of the sales cycle at times. In a BDR role, you're really managing the first part of that deal cycle. So it's generating interest in the product and making sure you fit what we call as BANT, BANT, budget, authority, need, and timing. So my job is just to make sure, hey, Max, you're a CMO at Walmart. Do you have the budget, the need, the authority, and the timing for us to take this next step? So generally, what I'm doing when it comes to contract scoping is less of a this is what we cost, and more of a what's your threshold for what you're looking to spend on this, in terms of contract size.
Mhm. So you have account executives who then uh, come into uh, come into game and starting
Yes.
to work with the leads which you generated.
Yes, and so that's why it's really important that we have the knowledge across, like I said, tons of different verticals and industries, because those account executives come to us. So I set this meeting at Walmart as a BDR for my AE, and they go, what is the backstory here? And so the more I know about you and the more I've been able to qualify this BANT, the better that is for my AE to then show up to a meeting and go, here's the platform that we want to demo. Here's what you're looking to see. And so it really is this, in a perfect world, a great relationship and handoff, that allows me to really, I only care about figuring out your BANT. If we want to talk specific dollars, that's a further conversation. And that makes my job easier and more straightforward. It allows me to focus on, like I said, creating interest in the product, figuring out your need rather than going, hey, dollars and dimes here.
Mhm. How much time usually it takes to make interest, or to find some prospect and find a way how to write a message to him in email, or I don't know, LinkedIn communication?
So I'll answer that in two ways. So first of all, I'd say the process on my end. So without necessarily getting a response, the way I would say I tend to do things, if I get a brand new account, the first thing we want to do is, so, hey, I've never worked Walmart before, let's say. I want to look up their earnings calls, 10K reports, and any public news, start a running document of any quotes from their C levels or VPs that are important to them that I might be able to use in an email or drop to on a call, and then start strategizing on LinkedIn about who are my prospects, who are the most important people that I want to reach out to. And then I'd say I come from an organization that thankfully we have a archived library of tons of knowledge and resources. So rather than necessarily having to create everything from scratch, I'm very lucky that I can go back, find use cases and things that we know and tested have worked, and then create messaging. So on the creating messaging side, I'd say it's probably couple hours to from first getting a prospect or an account to the first message going out. The sales cycle, in terms of how long it takes a prospect to mature for us, generally anywhere on my from the beginning, anywhere from 4 weeks to 3 months. And that's again because of the large size of tech we're selling. We're selling generally to VP and C level. and it's a deal size that's 6 or 7 figures. So working our way up to someone who has the authority to that generally takes a good amount of time.
Mm-hmm. Can you give a taste of the job in terms of money that you do? Maybe you can share
Yeah,
like how many you started, how many did you earn when you started,
yeah.
and how is it
So
now?
when I first started, and I'm the hard part about a lot of BDR roles. So when I first started at my previous small manufacturing company, right out of college, first sales role, I was making about 55,000 US a year. With sales commission and incentive, I think it could be a little bit north of 60 when it was all said and done. Where I am now, again, I have about a little over 4 years experience. Excuse me. I my base salary is 70,000, and my on target earning is a little over 100 right now. So, with
Mm-hmm.
about 4 years of experience now at a top tech company.
Uh-huh. On target earning or quota, does it depend on sales or
Yes.
on amount of generating leads?
So for us, what we do it based on is we have our base set, and then it is based on the amount of leads we generate. So there is a small part that ends up being final sale, but because we don't um, play a huge part in the closing of deals, it really is based on how many meetings we're able to pass along.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What is the most uh, challenging aspect of your job?
The most challenging aspect, unfortunately, right now is the economy. Um, when I first started at Amperity, I found that there was probably about a 3 to 4% average reply rate, probably 2%, 3% call pickup rate. Probably sitting at right now for this year about a 0.5% reply rate and 0.2% pickup rate. So less at bats, less opportunities in general is probably the hardest thing right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so economy, but when you work, is something else which is difficult, like or cold calling is easy, writing outreaching is easy.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I'd say the hard part for me is that it's a personal thing, right? There are a lot of people who hate cold calling and hate being on the phone. I actually really enjoy it. Something that I like to be on. So for me, that isn't necessarily a challenge. For me, the harder part is um, intent data, being able to pick up on things in the news. And so that's why I told you if I'm starting on a new account, I start that document because for me, I found that I would lose stuff in the news or I wouldn't keep up on important things that are happening in the real world with companies, and my messaging would be out of touch. Like, real world example, I was going after Party City, which is a kind of party goods store in the US. They filed for bankruptcy and I didn't catch it for a couple weeks. And that, why would I send someone messaging if they're going through reorganizing their assets, that kind of stuff? So um, it kind of depends on your personality. Their cold calling is probably the biggest fear for a lot of people getting into a sales job. So in terms of challenging, that is probably the generic answer, but that doesn't mean it's hard for everyone or that it's necessarily a bad thing, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. So this cold calling, how much time does it take from the whole from the whole different tasks?
So I probably make we're tasked with about 30 calls a day. Um, Assuming there are zero pickups, that probably takes an hour. Um, Conversations generally because you're a BDR and it's cold, there are very few people who are like, "Hey, I got an hour, let's chat." So even pickup conversations generally 5 to 10 minutes. So I tend to block out about an hour of my day, and I will turn off my messaging, turn off my teams, and focus on my calls, have my script up. That way I can knock them all out and get them done. But some people pace throughout the day, some people do a few here and there. But about an hour, 2 hours a day is generally what I spend.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that there are roles like without cold calling at all? So you are just a BDR, you are writing emails, outreaching on LinkedIn, some other ways. and but don't have cold calls?
I I personally believe I think cold calls, and I might be a little new school. I think cold calls have, I don't like the term cold call, and here's why. I think calls have a role to play when you have someone who maybe is opening emails, or you have intent data that maybe you know someone in your network who said, hey, maybe we know they're looking at something. Then I believe there's an appropriate way to call. Hey, Max, I know Walmart's looking at this upcoming initiative and I wanted to talk about it. That makes more sense to me than, hey, Max, you've never met me. Can I sell you something? And so cold calling to me is less of a let's spray and pray
So
like
it
we
is not
used to. Just,
spam. It is not
yeah,
spam.
there's no point in just, hey, if I don't have any relevant point to talk to you, that all that's going to do is frustrate you. Now, if I do have a really interesting thing that I want to say to you, it might be worth getting you on the phone. Now, like I said, I have 5 seconds to convince you what I have to say is interesting and for you. But I think there's a, like I said, cold calling is kind of a hard term because if it's truly cold, it probably won't work. But if you have some email open, intent signal, inter network connection that allows you to have a, hey, I'm calling for a very specific reason because I think this is important to you, it can still be beneficial, I think.
Mm-hmm. And my last question is, can you give some advice for people who want to start working as a BDR in the US?
Yeah, and it's funny on our team over the last few years. There have been a few people who started working remote who either had non U.S. background, and so they were some of the people that I learned the most from. And the reason is they were proactive in their research, confident in what they brought to the table. So you bring a skill set as a BDR. You get hired at a tech company, I promise um, there are no like free jobs. There's no, you're not good at you're there for a reason. Share your knowledge and don't be afraid to branch out and try new things. With the way the economy is, with the way BDR reply rates are, there is no golden bullet to getting an answer. There is no, if I just do this 5 times, I make money. If there was, everyone would do it. And so being proactive, confident, and willing to try new things is what will set you apart. I think a lot of times, um, like I said, I didn't come from a traditional sales path. And I find a lot of times people who try to fit into the traditional, this is how it's always been done. I have to call, they struggle because in today's evolving world and economy, it just you have to be willing to think on your feet. And so I think the more you're willing to be confident in thinking on your feet and proactive in your research, the better you'll do. Um, so yeah, that'd be kind of my
Hmm.
advice.
Cool. Nicholas, thank you very much for your insights. It
Yeah,
really shows what is BDR and what is the kitchen or inside part of it.
it's a very interesting, vital part to a sales org that I think a lot of times falls under the radar. We're the first contact with a lot of the people who end up signing multi-million-dollar deals with our company, and so, like I said, it's a great way to get started in sales and dip your toe in while having a very specific function that you're in charge of. You get to own it, master it, and be great at it, and it'll allow for lots of career growth in the future. So,
Cool, Nicholas. Thank you very much.
thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you again.
Cool.